It's a geologically active area. There probably are cracks down at the bottom of the lake. Kind of makes you wonder, well, maybe there's a link to the ocean through these things.
Alaska's elusive great white shark, nicknamed Jaws, has been located by scientists in 2025. But their discovery is more terrifying than anticipated. This predator measures over 20 feet long, making it a formidable force. The revelation sparks fears for marine life and humans. Is Alaska prepared to face the wrath of its very own? Join us to find out. The silent depths of Alaska. In the rugged wilderness of Alaska lies a mysterious lake that appears to pulsate with intrigue. This body of water is not just a mere reservoir. It exudes an aura of both dread and fascination. Numerous individuals speculate that it harbors ancient and potent mysteries. Known as Lake Iliamna, this expansive body of water is so vast that it resembles a tranquil ocean rather than a typical lake. Stretching across numerous miles, it is grander and more extensive than most can comprehend, instilling a sense of insignificance in anyone who gazes upon it. However, it is not the sheer magnitude that fuels speculation. It is the hidden truths concealed deep beneath its serene exterior. The lake is situated in a very secluded region of Alaska. There are no convenient highways that direct to it, and no bustling cities nearby. The majority of individuals will never have the opportunity to witness the sparkling water up close. The seclusion of the lake creates an ideal environment for peculiar phenomena to go unnoticed for long periods of time. However, what adds to the intrigue is that Lake Iliamna is not entirely isolated. A lengthy river flows water from the lake all the way to the ocean. This pathway allows marine creatures to access the lake, delve deep into it, and then disappear into the fresh water. This is more than just a concept. Residents have actually witnessed it occurring. People have observed seals joyfully swimming in the lake. Additionally, white whales have been sighted many miles from the shore, frolicking in the transparent water as if it were their natural habitat. The fact that these creatures can journey so deep into the land and thrive raises questions about what else could have ventured in. Perhaps a larger entity, perhaps an ancient being, perhaps something that opts to remain concealed. The lake's unique shape allows for effective concealment. When viewed from above, the surface appears tranquil and motionless. However, below the surface lies various layers of water. Warmer water sits atop colder, denser water, creating a distinct separation. In the depths of this division, a shadowy region exists where visibility diminishes and sound diminishes. This area is shrouded in darkness, rendering it nearly impossible to observe anything. Creatures could easily glide unseen just beneath a passing boat without anyone above being aware. Fishermen with years of experience on the lake discuss the unusual quietness that surrounds it. They mention how the lake has a tendency to absorb items without ever returning them. Stories are shared about the murky depths where the water descends beyond human comprehension. Some areas of the lake plunge over 1,000 feet into the ground, surpassing the height of numerous skyscrapers. In these shadowy regions, there is potential for hidden creatures to lurk, leisurely navigating the chilling waters. For numerous years, pilots soaring above the lake have exchanged tales about their observations. They mention mysterious, dark forms moving under the water, too big to be typical fish, and not fast enough to be whales. These silhouettes float with an unusual elegance, almost as if they are from a different era. The pilots make no attempt to decipher them. They only relay their sightings and allow the mystery to endure. But the mystery of the lakes wasn't a new development. It was already known to the inhabitants of the island. What did they believe? Stay with us. The warnings beneath the waves. Many years ago, long before pilots spoke of strange shadows moving under the water, and long before cameras tried to capture odd shapes beneath the surface, the people who lived near Lake Iliamna already understood that the lake was special. One of the oldest stories spoke of a huge being called Ga'akad. People near the lake described Ga'akad as a creature with great strength, strong enough to rise out of the water and flip a canoe in a single powerful motion. They said it could pull a person below the surface before the person had time to shout for help. Elders taught that if the water looked cloudy on a clear day, or if soft ripples formed even when the wind was calm, it was a sign to leave the lake immediately. Those who ignored these warnings often did not return. These teachings came from centuries of watching the lake and learning its ways. To the west, the Aleut people had their own stories. They spoke of beings called jignuk. These creatures were known as skilled hunters that worked together in groups. They would circle boats quietly and then strike from below without warning. Fishermen were told never to travel alone and to always watch the surface for any sudden movement. In Aleut folklore, the jignuk were powerful enough to break wooden boats as if they were nothing more than thin sticks. Their songs and stories repeated one message: respect the lake, and the lake might show mercy. These warnings were shared not only through words, but also through art. Totems showed long bodies with pointed fins. Songs explained how the creatures moved through the deep places of the lake. Every carving, every melody, and every gesture reminded the people that the lake could feed them with salmon, but it could also take lives without hesitation. With no written language and no modern tools, the people created their own way of recording history. Their stories became their books. In the 1700s, Russian fur traders arrived in Alaska, searching for sea otters. They heard the local stories, but dismissed them as superstition. Soon, they learned the truth for themselves. Many traders returned with frightening tales from the water. Some said their boats had been struck hard from below, as if something enormous had risen up to attack them. Others reported that men had been pulled into the freezing water and never seen again. Imagine a trader sailing across the calm lake at sunset. The sky glows with warm colors, and the water lies silent. Suddenly, a large shadow slides under the boat. The light dims. A heavy body brushes the wooden hull. In a heartbeat, the calm breaks. The water begins to thrash. The boat flips over. Men fall into the icy lake, struggling to survive. Those who lived through such moments began to believe the old stories. The legends were no longer just tales. They were warnings people had ignored. What makes these early stories so interesting is how closely they match the reports people share today. Both long ago and now, people describe long bodies, shiny backs, and groups of creatures moving as one. Both speak of sudden attacks, great strength, and creatures that disappear before anyone can understand what happened. Even without modern science, the people of the lake had real experience, and they shared it in every way they could. Then came the summer of 1942, a moment that changed everything. Babe Ellsworth, a skilled bush pilot, took off in his small plane on a bright Alaskan day. Flying was part of his daily life. He knew every corner of the land and every curve of the lake. With him that day was Bill Hammersley, a government wildlife agent. They expected a simple, peaceful flight. As they passed over the deep water, Ellsworth noticed several large shapes moving below them. At first, he thought they were logs. But logs do not turn suddenly, and logs do not move together. When the plane changed direction, the shapes followed. Hammersley leaned close to the window, trying to see more clearly. What they saw left both men speechless. More than a dozen huge creatures moved smoothly through the water, all close to the same size, all shining like metal under the sun. Each one looked almost as long as the wings of the plane. The creatures did not drift around. They moved with purpose, side by side, like a team. Ellsworth had flown over the lake many times, but he had never seen anything like this. When the plane landed, Ellsworth and Hammersley shared their story immediately. Their report spread far beyond the small lake communities. Because Ellsworth was trusted and Hammersley worked for the government, many people believed them. Soon, others came forward with their own stories. One of them was Tom Slick, a rich Texan known for investigating mysterious creatures. He sent teams to search the lake and speak with locals. Some reports from these teams described strong forces bending thick steel hooks as if they were made of soft wire. The disappearing hunters. In recent decades, a variety of individuals such as researchers, underwater enthusiasts, adventurers, and documentarians have journeyed to Lake Iliamna with the shared objective of revealing the mysteries lurking below its icy depth. Some arrived with optimism, equipped with cameras, sonar equipment, and unwavering certainty. However, the outcomes varied drastically. Some departed unsettled, others kept their experiences to themselves, and a few never came back. Troubling accounts first arose in the 1950s, as small research teams set sail on the vast lake in robust vessels to find evidence of the legendary creature rumored to exist. Some of these boats returned to land with significant damage to their hulls, appearing as though they had been struck with great force from beneath. Additionally, certain boats were found abandoned, with equipment strewn about, yet the crew members were mysteriously missing. Two researchers established a small base by the lake in the 1960s with the aim of capturing any uncommon noises emerging from the deep waters. Night after night, they inserted lengthy cables into the lake and listened intently. However, one night, all their equipment stopped working unexpectedly. The following morning, nearby residents discovered the recording devices partially buried in moist mud and the cables torn apart. The scientists, who had been operating the equipment, had mysteriously disappeared without leaving any clues behind, such as footprints or indications of a struggle. The tales continued unabated. During the late 1970s, a group of divers from the contiguous United States came equipped with advanced technology and an ambitious strategy. They were convinced that the mysterious being resided within submerged caves concealed along the rugged coast. Despite venturing into the icy waters with assurance, their communication devices began to malfunction, leading to their voices fluctuating before ultimately ceasing altogether. Eventually, only a solitary diver resurfaced, visibly trembling and unable to articulate his experience. He chose to remain silent about what occurred beneath the surface, while the fate of his companions remained a mystery. In the 1990s, a Japanese film crew had a disturbing experience when they visited the lake. They reported discovering huge underwater chambers filled with what appeared to be giant bones, with some pieces resembling ribs and others resembling skulls wedged in between rocks. Despite their attempts to take photos, their submersible was forcefully struck by something as they tried to resurface. The vessel made it back to shore with deep gashes on its metal exterior. However, when the crew tried to develop their film, they found that most of the images were unusable. Furthermore, no one was able to locate the mysterious caves again. The vanishings have persisted up to the present day. In the year 2021, a pair of divers from the area embarked on an expedition to investigate the southern section of the lake. Their backup vessel later discovered that their lifelines had been cleanly severed, as if by a sharp object submerged in the water. Efforts were made by search teams to find the divers, but they were never located. And yet, these lake monsters took it to another level. Stay with us. It's just the beginning. When the deep rose to meet the sky. In the 1970s, Lake Iliamna transformed from a location of secretive rumors and hushed tales to a favored spot for researchers, aviators, and inquisitive residents who shared a common belief. There was a disturbance in the lake, a disturbance too significant to overlook, a disturbance daring enough to surface in plain sight of people. In the year 1977, a pilot named Tim Leaport had a remarkable experience while flying over a lake. He was accompanied by an investigator who had come to study the rumored mysterious creature in the area. While flying over the expansive water, they both observed movement below them. A long, curved shape emerged just under the surface, its back shining as it rolled. Another large form appeared alongside it, leaving both men in awe. Each creature was at least 30 feet long, if not larger, which left the men speechless. The sight of two of these creatures moving together made the experience even more unbelievable. This was not the final occasion. The giants made an appearance. In the year 1988, an unprecedented event occurred that caused a stir in the tiny towns near the lake. 17 individuals on the shore witnessed multiple massive creatures emerging from the water simultaneously. These beasts glided with deliberate strength, some in pairs, and others moving in a circular motion, possibly communicating with each other. Onlookers guessed the creatures' lengths to be between 25 and 40 feet. The sheer volume of witnesses eliminated any possibility of deception. What they saw was undeniably genuine and not a figment of their imagination. In 1987, a woman named Vera Colia had a terrifying experience while out on the lake in her small boat. The water started behaving strangely, with dark shapes moving beneath her vessel. Suddenly, her boat lurched, as if something big was pushing up from below. Scared, she immediately headed back to shore and swore off going to the deeper areas of the lake. Her tale quickly circulated among the locals, who were already aware of the lake's ominous reputation. Over time, a shift occurred. Instead of isolated accounts from individuals, the sightings were now being corroborated by multiple groups. Among the eyewitnesses were experts like pilots and researchers. Numerous encounters were documented in official records. Fishermen shared their encounters with the authorities. Despite some photographic evidence emerging, much of it was either shelved labeled as uncertain or deemed inconclusive. The lake was transitioning into a different phase, with the giants now making their presence known instead of remaining hidden in the depths. They were emerging in plain sight, leaving behind stories that could not be easily dismissed. Following the sighting in 1977, interest in the lake started to spread quickly. By 1979, the curiosity had turned into a full-fledged search for a mysterious creature, making it one of the most intense hunts in American history. The quest began with a challenge issued by a newspaper. The Anchorage Daily News put out a call offering a hefty reward of $100,000 for any solid evidence of a creature residing in Lake Iliamna. The conditions were straightforward: provide proof strong enough to silence skeptics. This could take the form of a clear photograph, a tangible sample, or any other confirmation of the creature's presence. The announcement quickly traveled throughout Alaska, igniting interest from various groups such as hunters, researchers, thrill seekers, and locals who started organizing excursions to the lake. The ensuing pursuit was a blend of anticipation, thrill, and apprehension. Miniature submarines were submerged into the frigid depths, their dim lights illuminating just a small fraction of the murky underworld beneath. The lake was scanned by sonar gadgets, detecting significant shifting forms far below. Unfamiliar sounds were captured by hydrophones, distinct from the calls of seals, whales, or typical freshwater creatures. Certain teams experimented with unconventional techniques, believing that heightened senses or intuition could lead them to the mysterious being. There was undeniable physical proof that could not be overlooked. Fishermen discovered torn nets that were destroyed by an immensely powerful force. Certain boats came back with significant marks or dents on their hulls, exceeding the damage that rocks or ice could create. Equipment showed large bite marks that were wider than what any known lake creature could produce. The inclusion of every peculiar element reinforced the notion that an exceptional phenomenon lurked beneath the tranquil exterior. Despite all the hard work put into it, the extensive search failed to provide the conclusive evidence that the world was hoping for. The submarines came back with indistinct pictures. The sonar scans created more uncertainty than clarity. The strange noises captured on tape continued to puzzle experts. The torn nets and ruined boats served as physical evidence, but without a corresponding creature, the mystery remained unsolved. But now, scientists have tried to decipher the truth beneath the waters. What did they discover? When science meets shadows. Throughout history, science has tried again and again to solve great mysteries, yet Lake Iliamna remains as secretive as ever. Stories have been told for many generations about strange shapes in the deep water, long shadows moving silently, and sudden disturbances that do not fit any normal explanation. These stories create a mix of fear, wonder, and endless debate. Modern scientists hope to replace fear with evidence, but what they discovered only made the mystery deeper and harder to ignore. One of the most respected voices in Alaskan marine research is Bruce Wright, a biologist who spent many years studying the cold waters of the region. Wright believed the creatures could be massive sleeper sharks. These sharks can grow longer than 20 feet, live for an incredibly long time, and move comfortably through cold, dark places. If they entered Lake Iliamna through the Kvichak River, they would find everything they needed to survive: deep water, quiet surroundings, and a strong supply of salmon. At first, this idea made sense to many people, but eyewitness reports did not match the shark explanation. Some said they saw creatures almost 60 feet long sliding through the water. Others described sunlight reflecting off smooth, metal-like bodies, a texture no known shark has. Fishermen spoke of nets torn apart with shocking force and strong hooks bent as if made of soft wire. These experiences created doubt, and the simple shark theory no longer fit the puzzle. As technology improved, scientists brought new tools to the lake. In the last decade, researchers used a method called environmental DNA, or eDNA. By studying water samples, they could detect tiny pieces of genetic material left behind by animals. In the samples from Lake Iliamna, they found traces of salmon and seals, but they also found something else: genetic markers that did not match any known fish. This raised an exciting question. Could there be a species here that science has never recorded? Next came thermal imaging. Aircraft flew above the lake with infrared cameras that could see heat patterns under the water. Several times, the cameras detected large moving shapes far bigger than salmon or otters. These shapes glided slowly, almost like great sea predators. But no creature of such size is expected to live in a lake so far inland. The images made the mystery even stronger. Then came another surprise from a very unexpected tool. Seismographs, which normally measure earthquakes, sometimes picked up steady disturbances under the lake. These readings looked like the slow, powerful movement of something heavy, traveling through deep water. The patterns did not match storms, ice changes, or any natural shifts. Many scientists wondered if these vibrations were caused by living beings. Even with all these clues, experts still do not agree. Some believe the creature might be a giant shark or a sturgeon acting strangely. Others point out that many witnesses describe groups of huge creatures moving together. Sharks and sturgeon do not travel in groups, do not hunt as a team, and do not rise to the surface in formation. For such behavior to happen, the creatures would have to be completely different from known species. This leads to a chilling yet fascinating idea. Lake Iliamna may hold a species unknown to science, perhaps ancient or shaped by isolation over many centuries. Pieces of evidence, torn nets, bent hooks, strange genetic material, and strong heat signatures may be the first signs of something that has lived undisturbed for hundreds of years. In recent times, the lake has begun to change, and so have the sightings. Many people believe climate change is forcing the creatures out of their hiding places. Alaska is warming faster than almost anywhere else. The land is softer, the ice melts earlier, and the seasons no longer behave as they once did. As the environment shifts, the lake also changes. Water temperatures rise and fall in new patterns. New currents appear. The deep, quiet spaces the creatures once used may be disappearing, pushing them closer to the surface. Salmon, long linked to the creatures, are also struggling as their migration patterns shift. Some years bring fewer fish. Others bring salmon that arrive from new directions. If the creatures depend on salmon, they may now move into areas with more human activity, which could explain why sightings near the shore and fishing spots are increasing. At the same time, more people are entering Iliamna country. Boats, planes, and tourists fill the once untouched wilderness. The growing fishing tourism industry, along with new technology, means humans are everywhere. It may not be that the creatures are showing themselves more. It may be that humans are simply harder to avoid. Modern tools have made the lake easier to watch. Drones glide over the water, capturing long, dark shapes moving below. Satellites pick up sudden ripples in empty areas. Sonar shows huge objects that appear and vanish without warning. In the year 2019, aerial video caught a large, mysterious figure sinking into the depths. It was not a seal, and far too big to be a group of fish. Submersible teams later saw unusual shadows in the deep water, and satellite images revealed strange waves on the calm surface. Together, these clues may be the strongest signs yet that something is moving beneath Lake Iliamna, something large, quiet, and still unknown. Monsters across the waters. Lake Iliamna holds a mystery that rivals some of the most intriguing on the planet. Yet it is not unique in its association with mythological creatures lurking beneath the water's surface. Across the globe, lakes are steeped in legends of colossal beings concealed within their depths. Although they are identified by different monikers, the narratives surrounding these entities all convey a sense of apprehension and awe. Reports of massive shadows gliding through murky waters, fishermen disappearing without a trace, and sightings dating back centuries abound. When considering the collective lore, it becomes apparent that the mysterious creature of Lake Iliamna is just one fragment of a sprawling mystery. Scotland is home to one of the most well-known lake mysteries, which revolves around the Loch Ness. Throughout many centuries, individuals have recounted tales of a massive creature moving beneath the murky waters of the lake. Eyewitnesses have detailed sightings of a lengthy neck emerging gracefully from the waves, resembling a prehistoric being that somehow managed to survive. Some claim to have witnessed large, rounded humps disappearing in and out of view. Various forms of evidence, such as photographs, indistinct shapes, sonar scans, and gentle ripples, have all contributed to keeping the myth alive. Presently, individuals from different parts of the globe travel to Loch Ness in hopes of uncovering Nessie, anticipating a single clear moment that will finally expose the reality behind the legend. In Canada, on the other side of the ocean, Lake Okanagan is believed to be the dwelling place of a mysterious creature known as Ogopogo. According to indigenous legends, this creature was a formidable serpent that commanded reverence from anyone attempting to pass the waters. Present-day individuals who have reportedly witnessed Ogopogo describe a massive, dark entity gliding gracefully in the lake, with a body that can reach up to 40 feet in length. Various witnesses, including pilots, boaters, and groups of onlookers on the shore, have attested to seeing this creature's imposing figure moving beneath the water's surface. The tales of Ogopogo persist unabated, with each new sighting contributing to the ongoing mystery surrounding the lake monster. In the eastern part of the United States, there is a popular legend related to Lake Champlain, featuring a creature known as Champ. Reports describe this creature as having a lengthy body, occasionally with a head resembling a horse, or with gentle undulating humps. An infamous sighting occurred in the late 1970s when a woman managed to capture a photograph of a mysterious dark figure emerging from the lake. This image continues to fuel discussions and arguments, ensuring that the legend remains captivating for both residents and tourists in the area. Lake Iliamna stands out from other places due to the extensive evidence accumulated over the years. It goes beyond a single vague photo or a scared voice. Fishermen, pilots, adventurers, and scientists utilizing advanced technology have all attested to encountering massive shapes that defy easy explanation. Ancient tales from the Tlingit and Alutiiq communities depict beings that align with the descriptions provided by contemporary eyewitnesses. Additionally, tangible evidence like twisted steel hooks, shredded nets, and marks etched into boat propellers serve as remnants of these encounters. Only a handful of lakes provide a trail of clues as lengthy and intricate as what Lake Iliamna has to offer. This poses a straightforward yet impactful question. Is there a possible connection between the monsters residing in these lakes? Some scientists speculate that Nessie, Ogopogo, Champ, and the creature in Lake Iliamna could possibly share a common ancestry from an ancient lineage. According to these researchers, as glaciers melted and water levels increased, it is possible that certain groups of large aquatic creatures were isolated in deep freshwater lakes. In order to survive, they adapted and thrived in the serene, cold depths. If this theory holds true, Lake Iliamna may hold more significance than just a mysterious tale from Alaska. It could potentially offer insight into a prehistoric species that has managed to elude human knowledge by existing in seclusion. Iliamna stands out among other lakes for its immense size, great depth, and uncharted territories. There are vast regions where the sunlight does not penetrate the depths. There are extensive sections of water that are rarely visited by boats. Any organism residing in this lake would have ample room to thrive, roam, and evade detection. After many years of rumors, various pieces of proof, and numerous people who have seen it, the reality of Iliamna is finally coming to light. This body of water is not just the subject of a myth. It contains a living entity that exhibits behavior, movement, and leaves traces behind. The evidence of torn fishing nets, boats with damage, and sonar data all suggest one conclusion. There is a mysterious creature residing in the lake that is beyond the scope of scientific comprehension. The creature is particularly disturbing due to its unusual behavior. Observers recount instances of multiple bodies collaborating, encircling vessels, and attacking with such power that they can deform metal. Some claim to have spotted a solitary colossal entity, measuring up to 60 feet in length, gliding noiselessly before receding into the abyss. What was once dismissed as mere shadows or optical illusions is now being recognized as distinct forms, appearing closer and more frequently than in the past. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.